gonna speak from the middle?
Yeah.
Okay, that's good.
By the way, I like your belt, Nisarg.
Huh?
I like your belt.
Thanks. Everybody good?
Just about. Let me get a timer. Yep.
The role of the judge vote that sees the active extended challenge power structure knowledge. Every position actively promotes some way of understanding. The only defensible one is that challenges make students aware of a power structure. As number 3. Class practice integrates content and structure strategies and evaluation. These specify what knowledge must be what it means to know how the constructive presentation of role plays within the pedagogical and generally political ideological ways to operate and reproduce through instructional practice forms of evaluation of students in categories success and failure and implement practice transform these dimensions to school to sites of development of critical activity and forms of violence and characterize your internal conditions. That standards reducing oppression even if you win your prayer was absolute truth. Use the aspects to the role of valid change power structures. 1. Oppression is bad for equality. 8. Arbitrariness, identity, moral arbitrary lying, discrimination, and undermines the foundation of moral theory. B. Inclusion is an epistemological prerequisite. The apportion the biggest impacts we can for moral theories until all those affected are included by it. C. Any theory of unequal societal should be rejected since it wouldn't be accepted by those at the bottom. This makes it useless as political philosophy which must be justified with the citizen who the government rules over. 2. Prerequisite is that shading system values structure violence limits whom they can apply to based on unjustified conceptual categories. We need to create systems focus on strategies to stop that and make ethical categories meaningful. 1 relating 99. We do not seem to open our minds to everyone to our conceptual lens. Those who on the outside excluded, so we do not acknowledge the injustice. Everyone sees visual to the oppressed outsiders because we think can be foster structure violence on inevitable. We can aware of its operation, both systematic ways to mitigate its effect. Debate needs engagement with the solution to material problems. Focus on general theory or idealized alternatives and abstraction that use by the privilege to exceed hard conversation. Matsuda. Abstraction detachment ways out of discomfort for direct confrontation with the elements of pressure. Abstraction is about the ability to discuss right with no connection to the concepts and view of the mainstream intellectual trading values. Abstraction need encourages detail. I talk about meaning can mask the elements who never stop to ask what indication view. What are you saying for my sister getting books about five fights series? Well, for what he posts rotating on some abstract feature, you're getting your mind. The reality detail version of starting point for theory and theoretical critique is insufficient. Our discussion should be based on writing policy or changing in the empirical world, like both reoriented evaluation, tangible conditions of repression. Career 14. Debate pointing to the consequences of thinking in personal politics or fixing paradigm of one idea to everything. The problem analogy is that an ideal theory which argues they want necessarily as abstract way the gap between what is action, what are their theories, that debate is proposed around certain discussion whether the concrete nature of impression would necessarily tangible policy reorienting change narratives destroy social disparity cannot simply suggest that various complexity of social problems are troubleized within ideological frame at best. Theoretical endorsement makes them aware of problems in the empirical but it doesn't command us to remedy our ideological tendency. Also means pragmatic policy indicates that the system you're also limited to those that recognize particular ways of knowing, giving people the chance to participate in theories and requires concrete change by figuring out the best possible option to resist or replace dominant institutions. Plan text. The Republic of Indonesia ought to allow adolescents the right to get abortions. First is the status quo in Indonesia. Abortions are allowed within the first 40 days prior to condition of knowing child or gender. After explains abortions for all causes within safe time for abortion and abortion that any period is extra topic essentially of changing the laws in Zhao 14. Abortion in Indonesia remains prohibited. The restriction means that only institutions safe abortion are possible without asking unsafe abortion in Indonesia, but 40% of maternal mortality comes from unsafe abortion. The problem of non-pregnancy makes it impaired that regulation physical accessibility law abortion in the law. In that way we can minimize unsafe abortion rate for sure health problem. Most abortions religiously abortion system, but people interact with social culture values should never provide asking about healthcare. I've been adults in 10, 19, but I would dealing at your other channel reasonable. I won't ever add the ACI reserve direct clarifying crossing the energy one of the legal abortion market. Adults who seek illegal abortion are abused assholes through legalization of services that are safe and available to even the person individual who have 14 bracket of clarity. Only women with money are those who have access to information can find abortion patient would repeatedly deceived by drug sellers of safe abortion when they're women who experience violence and discrimination when they seeking safe abortion. The lack of regulation have turned the business into a business without clear regulation then the female audience become a battleground. It's also promoting better medical education and legalizing abortion is mainly the law that follows in Title 15. In Indonesia, abortion are permanent. The result is rejections and catastrophic unsafe abortion. The criminal restricting law cause damage to physician medical services and women making abortion legal, ensuring safe abortion services available to all women are urgent imperative. Achieving these goals would lead to social societal benefits. The advantage choose cultural sexism. Adults are unable to go their safe abortion services due to negative sexual connotation for young women and religious beliefs in Indonesia who died 12. Indonesia preserves cultural principles which support banning on abortion. Women are more vulnerable to this policy because the policy of the woman is as criminal instead of victim. The penalties for 10 years refers to a fine of 1 billion IDR. Women who are younger are the most vulnerable group. The assholes for violence towards minorities spread laws that objectify and target women that shouldn't think who died too. The government policy was not only possessing women as an object of people but also make people take advantage of the woman itself. This policy made violence towards women remain unspoken. They only reduced the number of abortions by giving the open access to health services. Women have control of their life. This is specific to adolescents too. Not only just all women is the reason you prefer that evidence preferred because often adolescents are unmarried, therefore they're both likely to be affected. Also AC solvency over any sort of NC counterplugs. The A point is the NC counterplugs. The counterplugs are specific to Indonesia. They don't refer to the corrupt society, and the only policy action can solve. Second of all, they don't solve the illegal abortion, which is the reason you would specifically prefer the plan. Now go to the interview. One, abortion in Indonesia occur within a 40-day time period. That's what I defend. Only for rape cases. 114, a new Indonesian regulation has restricted time for rape victims and serious medical condition between 40 days, and surgical abortion only happen every 6 weeks. That's 42 days, which is why the AF only defends medical abortion meets your teen tier 2 and MRCH. Medical abortion is available 10 weeks or longer, unless you can have surgical abortion from 6 weeks up to 22. Two, role of the ballot constitution on productivity. It's just a question of debate from substantive issues. The diverging argument that's always available to arguments of how the form of debate is better since it forces it to happen. In other words, people go for procedures that never engage. Prior question to your role about argument is better. A question about whether that's a productive way to debate. And three, solution to critical issues must be discussed through pragmatic approaches to within hegemonic power to Kapura bracket for gender. Bipartisan can truly exploit the instability of power of the statement the hegemonic remedy interest of the master may be paralyzed using his own points when he speaks their language and appears to their own ethical rights as equal and motive common ground for this reason the master can ancient crush you like their game makes it difficult for them not to take you seriously. 4. Presume after the FRB has used Stratsky A, speaking the dark with 9 reasons for making a definition to include 1 CV, after time curve 7462 times Q and negative ability, upload the round C, using after 7.74, 7.4% X side by sample or 12 case sample, then must be, net must weigh their restory against the structural bias inherent to affirming. 5. Use reasonability on the cheat debate. No interpretation is perfect. Always some modifications for reasonability. Reasonability is finding a solvency after topic literature and finding the outside that structurally views the negative. This solves predictably against ground claims reasonably. 6. Negative is always attributes, but still forming one AR means it can refer from any possible negative attributes you chose to shift the NC being extremely hard for the after the 1 AR means at least the neg can react to attributes in the 1AC. 7. The neg may not read an attribute, it's only part of the 1AC or simply an add-on of the 1AC, add-on to the 1AC. 8. Ground this allows the neg to defend the most desirable side of the resident and avoid any disadvantage negation. 2. B. Times also force me to start the whole debate over the 1 AR nullifying 6 minutes of speech time. C. Predictability, their infinite permutation of possible pigs, which is impossible for the after engage in the neg. 8. This is step. The K role of that analysis comes before any sort of theory arguments because we are people before debaters. Therefore, as judges, you should evaluate outer round impacts, but those who actually apply to us as people even before debaters. Therefore, they impact us the most.
Okay, ready?
Yeah.
Let's talk about your first advantage. The second card here says the app solves for promoting better medical education and legalizing abortion. How does legalizing abortion promote the training of doctors or improve medical education?
Okay, so the idea here is that having an abortion, right, would require that there are abortion services that are available, and that would imply that physicians or medical doctors.
So why does legalizing abortion mean that you build more abortion clinics? Where does the app mandate that there is an increase in education for doctors?
Sure, I guess it would be like a spillover effect the app would create.
Okay, where does your evidence make that spillover claim?
Okay, it would lead to achieving these goals would lead to societal benefits that would probably help that have safe abortion services.
The warrant in this evidence is this one sentence: achieving these goals would lead to societal benefits.
Yeah.
All right, let's move on to your second contention.
Mm-hmm.
All right, it says adolescents are unable to go through safe abortive services due to negative.
Wait. For the first question, the medical education impact doesn't relate to solvency. Like I can still solve by legalizing abortion.
Okay, that's fine. Yeah, that's okay. Let's talk about your second advantage. Your first Hudaya card says that Indonesia preserves cultural principles to support a banning on abortion.
Mm-hmm.
Where does it make the reverse causal claim that legalizing abortion changes those cultural attitudes?
Okay, so Hudaya 2 talks about how the AF, by legalizing a law, will prevent the violence against minorities and prevent laws that objectify and target women because of the stigma. Because the law will mandate them to do something, so therefore those cultural notions will gradually disappear.
Wait, okay, so where does it say that in the evidence?
The only way to reduce, the only way is to give women an open access to health service so women will have control over their life.
Okay, this says the only way to reduce the number of abortions
Sure,
is by
but like,
giving
I would
women
make
open access to health
I
services.
accept an analytic under that, saying that it talks about how it's specific to adolescents and why it allows them to have their voice in their life.
Alright, that's fine. Let's talk about your underview now.
Sure.
Your second argument is that role of the ballot contestation is unproductive.
Yeah.
So the only warrant in this is that it diverts the debate away from a question that's always available.
Sure, the argument here is that it's just a question from like substantive issues about what we should be talking about.
So you get to choose which role the ballot is.
Yeah, that's what it says.
Okay. That's okay. Let's talk about your RBI arguments.
Sure.
Does the neg also get an RBI?
I don't take a stance on that.
I want you to take a stance.
I don't want to. I didn't play that in the 1AC.
Okay, your B point says the AF is time crunch because of the 7463 time skew. If you read 1AR theory, but I don't read NC theory, isn't that also uplayering? So why wouldn't this warrant also apply to the negative?
You can make that argument, but
okay.
It's specific to the 7463 times skew.
Alright. Let's talk about your plan text. You debate, your plan text is the Republic of Indonesia.
Right.
Which government in Indonesia do you defend?
The federal government. So you can read a state's counterplan or a province's counterplan.
Okay, that's fine. Starting private.
typing your email address wrong.
Oh, okay.
Did
I got
you
it.
get it?
Oh, you got it?
I got it.
Alright, everyone good?
Once again, pull up the speech file.
You have to say the order.
Oh, sorry. 2 off case.
Give me a second.
Alright, now is everyone ready? War uncertainty means we prevent extinction, Boston 12. War uncertainty present actually might be confused over our uncertainty. There's great value in preserving our ability to recognize value in serious future and accordingly ensure there will be future humanity's best way to increase future value. No optimistic states in their opposed to approval action still to a more responsibility sensitive. Unlike it about most of his choice and right, third parties want to authorize action of action, not repeats and after to authorize and authorized action consider with government for the prevents private action but not fully discourage it. Thus the standards minimizing existential risk, extinction outweighs structural violence. One, A is that there's always some value to life in a world where everyone's still alive, even people are marginalized by certain joys in life which are obvious to remove by the end of being. B, lost value in life are reversible, while extinction isn't means to further impacts, there's always potential to regain life's value after the planet's past. 2, even if the world is bad now, it's a comparative question. Nuclear war also harm battles like massive starvation, conflict, collapse of all economic, political checks, and violence results in more harm. Indonesian President Jokowi has built a fragile coalition past reforms that prevent imminent economic crisis, but skilled negotiations to ensure continued support power divisions. Being controversial delay will cause deadlock that prevents reforms. Lean 15. The National Mandate Party has fallen prey to the pursuing attacks of guerrilla coalition. Jokowi's government finally secured the support of the EAM by using transactional politics, promise and power sharing. Hassan previously not that would support the government to help create political stability. When the nation was starting to suffer the consequences of the economic downturn, the parties opted for the support of the government to break the law jam to deceive, proceeded to invite everyone to join forces in the so-called Nisarg coalition, revive the economy. The current political constellation has grown to include division with the Jokowi's own party. The plan is massively controversial and would destroy the coalition. LT13. There are a lot of controversies in abortion. Pro-life activists are against abortion practice based on moral, political, legal, and religious perspective. Ingenious and strong religious culture legalization abortion will take a lot of political costs. The need of coalition to pass economic reforms that prevent Indonesian economic collapse. Song 14. Weaken the expected performance by the favorite party in Indonesian parliamentary elections, likely delay much needed economic reform keep the nation's social safety net. Joko could, based on waiting practical about pressing economic issues, include fees such as anxiety about foreign investors should the reforms be delayed. Indonesia is likely to miss growth. PDIP's restructuring means the country will need to form a larger coalition more than 3 parties. Economic collapse destroys ASEAN, which is crucial to U.S. relations. Low 10. The U.S. and India share of interest in integrated independent outward looking ASEAN. ASEAN has played an indispensable role in facilitating dialogue and security. Integrated ASEAN is also more as attractive destination for economic investment. U.S. assistant wall is in Indonesia. Interest in Indonesian leadership will be in America's interest. Relations are key to Indonesian stability and stopping terrorism. Low 10. Relations between America and Indonesia can build a mutually beneficial partnership. U.S. and compelling strength the outcome of these challenges by larger countries. Southeast Asia, so cigarette southern entry 20 is surprising democracy, terrorist attacks, recast and energy relationship. U.S. and the industry announced to share a clear priority remain points of relationship up to broad terrorism assistance, financial intelligence unit training, strength to counter terror intel, national police counterterrorism training for police and security officials assistance in establishing Indonesian lead unit high priority terror for capture by Indonesian authorities, major terror plots with scale to the reality of the terrorist threat, re-emerging 2009 expert calls the continuation of violent extremism and Indonesia likely. Risk of nuclear terrorism high, real and high now, largest risk of extinction. Bond et al. 14. Nuclear and radiological terrorism continue the most challenging threats to international security. Terrorism high, detonating a similar weapon made by a state or making nuclear crude bomb. The devastation can be absolutely horrifying. Attack and spread fear, forced evacuation, inflict billions of dollars and cost. Terrorists could cause a Fukushima like meltdown, a nuclear reactor or sabotage waste source, sabotage spread radioactive material over a huge area. It's dangerous, driven by terrorist intent capability and vulnerability of nuclear weapons and materials. Al Qaeda and Al Shinkiro saw nuclear weapons activity. Al Qaeda focus program, which progressed as far as carrying out explosive tests, caught the card at explosive test. And Indonesian economic collapse causes makes every impact inevitable and intent. Indonesia, a model for which other countries can learn to a region of how the world's third biggest democracy, the example leadership already needed. The last 5 years had food shortages, soaring energy costs, and economic crisis. We were confronted by environmental degradation, climate change, poverty, family conflict, disease, natural disasters, terrorism, nuclear political collapse, and governance problem. The need for collective action. Countries need a new style leadership that looks beyond national interest and recognize that durable solution. G20 become form and shape the response to this shift, demonstrate a welcome and more inclusive approach. Econ collapse turns case reinforced elitism because resource scarcities increase wealth and inequities. And next off. Abortion lowers the cost of sex, makes it unsafe, and of course more feasible. Click and Strand 3. Pregnancy might lead to mother program education and achieve lower benefits in mother market availability. Abortion lowers the expected cost of sexual intercourse because the pregnancy to be aborted in the event of undesired conception. How the availability of abortion unequally lowers the expected cost of sexual intercourse for heterosexual couples relative to a situation in which no abortion option is available. Teens think they are invincible and make that bad decision for grade 14. Under adolescent reveal after they don't want to give up. I believe there was still hope of saving life without necessarily having suffered the future. For this was not mentioned by the doctor. This role may relate to the adolescent well documented delusion, invincibility, invisibility, typical cases of social and cognitive development that peaks in adolescence dominated by egocentric thinking, historically proven increased sexual activity, abortion increases STD risk. Travis 3. When abortion was legalized, number of states 1969, 1970s, hospital treatment legalization led to an increase in sexual activity combined increases sexual committed diseases. Abortion legalization led to an increase in STDs. Relationship is causal. Abortion legalization accounts for about 1/4 the average disease incidence. STDs are extremely harmful, increase the risk of other diseases. CDC 14. STDs can complicate pregnancy, may have serious effects on both women and her developing baby. STD can make it easier for a person to get infected with HIV or AIDS. Increased newborns have an increased high risk of up to 90% of becoming chronic lifelong HPV bearers. Extinctions 998. Throughout history, the epidemics during which humanity broke down into epic chain conditions and had potential for high widespread contagion of growth through world population. Our present movement across borders absence extreme capability for dealer manipulation of pathogens that cause worry, threat, infection pathogens is a security problem for the species. Case. Our role of the ballot is to evaluate simulated costs and benefits of the plan versus a competitive post-fiat policy option. 1. Policy simulation to political actors and covers 5. Controlling government was one active state is supposed to be about. Presenting spread the obligation of a debate what the government should be doing. Absent discussion, motivation, political actions, law, role playing, promotes learning of the vocabulary levels of hard American students lack of faith, persuasion, provides winning for participation, simulation, coercion, power to students, fantasy of passion by making livestock to those who wield language power. Role playing can teach students to be comfortable with the language power that paves the way for effective political activism. 2 is inclusivity. Critical discussions possible under interpretation. Our argument is that their type of education is valuable. We should discuss power relations in the context of policy stimulation. If you aren't sure whether policymaking is valid or not, you should default to role of valid because it's more inclusive and it co-ops other offense. Now, on the contention level. Author first advantage, parental involvement is key to protect keys for abortion. 3 warrants collect 12. First, parents have greater experience in selecting medical providers that distribute competent from incompetent. Second, parents can provide info on minor's medical history, minor not know, or be willing to show this can be important whether there's a history of depression. Finding parents who know their daughter has undergone abortion can identify any post-procedure problems such as infection or hemorrhaging ignored either can lead to death. Best studies prove that parental abuse from abortion disclosure is extremely rare. Collect 12. Very few experience ill effects and disclosure reported. Natural disappointment is most common. If response to almost no parent response to violence. Less than half of 1% of the teens reported they were being underviewed. On the role of ballot choice argument, counter-interpretation, neg must be able to contest the opposite role of the ballot and read a competing role of the ballot for evaluating offense. If the neg's only arguments are a competing role of the ballot offense linked to and odd answers to the AC. First standards philosophical education. A role of ballot choice skills and rhyme philosophy. So there's no affirmative debate at all. And neg just has to concede that structural violence can first limits any possibility of philosophical clash, which is only a unit of benefit debating as opposed to just writing research papers. B. The app encourages brainwashing debate is key to prevent violent acceptance and identity, so we are more likely to question different philosophies. And 2. Argument equity discord. The neg's frame of that bias is debating in favor of the app. A. App is very research while they all the time research the app, whereas the neg doesn't. B. Frontless have unlimited fragment, which allows them to provide the perfect 1A again, or 1A against every possible next strategy. C is bias for everything we'll pick, frameworks in which the app has better ground. I should be able to weigh my impacts. 3 is flexibility. Multiple layers ensure a diverse strategies and statutes affirm AFC. Role of ballot choice means I can't pick strategies that I literally turn to the AC contention. So the app takes the exact progression round is more likely when it's unreasonable expecting to straight ref them in every round to lingers key to solve for deficits in many firms to leave no room for a significant number of offensive response to necklace. The key to top that bad he can't win if my strategy determined forming the app over competency. Actually might be bad for Gunny. The only thing that makes negative win certainly worse. Now with the RBI, I from reciprocity demands that we also get RBIs makes RBI a two-way street.
Okay. Ready?
Yeah.
Okay, you wrote a counterinterp. Does it RBI mean you win?
Well, if you extend this interpretation to be drop the debater.
So if I don't extend the interpretation to be
yeah, if you don't extend it as drop the debater,
okay.
then no.
Okay, let's agree on the implications of B. Let's agree on the implications of the show. This just means that I cannot take out your role of the ballot with this theory show, but I can still contest it and show why my role of the ballot still matters more.
Yeah, you can debate like which
Cool.
role of the ballot matters more.
So you read a bunch of let's go to your role of the ballot arguments about policy stimulation. Isn't that what the app does?
Yeah, it's just saying that we should debate the hypothetical consequences of the plan
Sure, that's
rather
what
than
we're defending.
rather than prioritizing discourse analysis or examining
We don't
power
do that.
relations.
Okay.
Yeah, so my argument is that your role of the ballot is too restrictive and doesn't
Cool.
view all the simulated merits and costs.
Alright, let's talk about the warrants in Colette, right?
Sure.
Alright, Colette talks about why parental involvement is key. First of all, it's from the United States. What does this apply to?
Okay, so the 3 warrants still apply if you go through them. First, it says that parents have greater experience in selecting medical providers.
Okay.
So obviously, this would also apply in a country where
Okay.
adolescents must select an abortion clinic. Second, it says parents can provide info about the minor's medical history. This also applies in a country where parents still can
Okay,
provide guidance.
Cool. Okay, let's
Yeah.
go to the politics dissent.
Sure.
The Song 14 evidence is from 2014. Indonesia elected a new president in 2015. Why does this apply?
Okay, that's not true. Jokowi was re-elected, but he still says that he wants to pass.
He wasn't re-elected. There was another president before. It was the previous president.
Yeah, okay, I'm sorry, I was looking at the wrong piece of evidence. So the Saline 15 evidence uniqueness. The Song 14 evidence is an internal link to economic collapse. So what's your question again?
So why does this Song 14 evidence link to economic collapse if that's based on why PDIP should be passed when Jokauki does it.
Okay, so the Song 14 evidence examines, yes, you're right that this is before the elections, but it examines the economic policies of the opposing parties and says that Jokowi's policies, if he were elected, would be the best policy for Indonesian
Half
economics.
links to the politics is that because the plan is controversial. Is that it? Because religious culture says that legalization of abortion will take a lot of political costs for the current president.
Yeah, it splits the coalition and fragments his ability to unite the different parties within the parliament.
And AN 14 evidence talks about why Indonesian economic
Which
collapse,
piece of evidence?
the very last impact.
Okay.
It says that Indonesian economic collapse makes every impact available because it's a leading country that has economic growth. Your evidence is from 2010, but you say that economic collapse is near right now. So why is it still a leading country if the economy isn't improving?
Okay, so the evidence does not say that Indonesia is key because it is a strong economy. It says you are a regional power and the world's third biggest democracy. You have the potential to be a
You
major.
didn't highlight the part that this is a fast emerging economy.
Yeah, okay, so an emerging economy doesn't mean that it's strong. There's still instability if it's an emerging economy.
Awesome. Okay. Can you explain the link between Indonesia and the U.S. terrorism combat thing?
Do you want to take that?
Before I start for it, because I asked before.
Okay, I guess it's because the U.S. cooperates with Indonesia in order to ensure counterterrorism strategies.
Cool. My timer didn't start. Can someone time?
Yeah, I'm telling you.
Alright, stop, Rob. How much time? 2:05. Okay. I'm gonna create a separate file, send it to you.
What's your order?
It will be just in the order that he read his offs, and then extend to the AC in the order he read his offs. Give me a second. This is my Word documents after you read. Okay. So extensions of the 1AC, then offset the order he read them. Yeah, extensions of the 1AC, cross applications to his framework, answers on his framework, and then down the dissents in the order he read them.
Okay, so AC first, then DH.
Yeah. Everything else is analytic.
Okay.
Everybody good?
Yeah.
Yep.
Extended role, the judge used both of the rhetoric, use the acting, extending, trying to power to Espinosa 3. He makes policy stimulation arguments, but that's exactly what the AFT is. We solve power structure, we solve for pressure through policy stimulation arguments. That's not a reason that you should prefer you two. Also, prefer my arguments because A is the only one that presumes the non-biased epistemology, so it's a prerequisite. Other role about to mean that you can't like the U2 NC because it talks about it presumes that non-biased epistemology that you need the AFT first to be extend Curry. Next, extend the context, the Republic of Indonesia, lots of adolescent right to legal abortion. That's Zhao 14. Extend the first advantage is the humbling. There are multiple abuses that basically include sex and legal abortion. Extend Natalia, which is they give them access to abortion, they don't harm their health while empowering them. Extending advantage to advantage also says that the current segment law continues to violence towards them and comes them, and instead of helping them, assholes these laws changing the way they are viewed. Also, he makes a bunch of terms, but his terms are not specific to the app. They're specific to the United States. Meaning in Indonesia, all parents like oppress their children in the fact that they don't want them to get abortion because of cultural reasons. And the app is key to an evolving parental law in the future because that in that way we overturn stigma. That's the who died to evidence that he concedes across the word. I mean across it, we said that currently that's what we have to do to the app is key to currently over stigma, meaning that his terms don't apply. Now go to the AC framework. He concedes multiple warnings about the AC framework. First of all, you have to prefer my standard over because first it's arbitrary if we use utilitarian because it talks about you don't know which citizens they include, which is the reason you shouldn't prefer the arguments. I know inclusion is epistemology prerequisite. That's why we can't use util because we don't have the epistemology. We can't use epistemology. Second of all, he said that any theory that condones unequal societal order should not be valued. And the implication was this reject the framework because it's the reason you reject the framework because it's a util does not reject the framework. No need to respond. He did not respond to this. He read a new framework. Should have responded to that. Coming at the one, this was a clear spike. And now go to the NC framework on Bostrom. First, best question why we value the future at all because you can see the affirm, which is the reason why it's true. Meaning that we don't value the future because we know reality right now. For that reason, Bostrom doesn't matter. Now go to the NC dissets. Start off on the PDIP. PDIP won't pass because Bissell was 14. PDIP had a coalition only for 40% of seats in the Indonesian parliamentary forums to create serious legislative which is not unique to the evidence because it's not going to pass either way. I mean, it's not going to pass the neg world either. You don't buy it. It takes out the entirety. No one passed the dissent. Get better evidence on 14 for the last president election. Happened in July. Your evidence from April. Reasons why we have economic coalition won't lead to clap. Joko Widodo has a new reform agenda. She spoke from July 22nd. Indonesia's economy is what is saying magic transformation. CEO Widodo. The trade will be paying for 119 and S3 for the nation. Adding it will lead to new growth engine. The government will increase its spending or attract more foreign investment using short-term strategy generate 1.3%. Infrastructure movie, long-term strategy adding 0.5 to 1%. The Jokagi government is optimistic that the number could swing to 500%. No impact. No impact reference from 2010. And evidence that Indonesia was the leading developing country, but current economic decline, which is in your dissent on the problems where they're not leaders. No impact. So we go to the extinction of the terrorism arguments. First, Matt. First on nuclear terrorism. First, non-unique. It should have happened already because there's terrorism still at a high, but there's no reason why Indonesia is key. Second of all, it's really denied because even if there's instability, there's no terrorism that happens because of that. Third of all, mutual assured destruction, the fact that it won't lead to global nuclear war because even if the terrorists launch a nuclear strike, that's not a reason why we will launch back. Now go to the abortion dissent. One, assholes saying abortion doesn't mean increased sexual education. A turn, more education means safe sex is more common. B, her education and empowering because they're on course with safe sex. Two, turn, abortion legalization reduces STDs in the long run. Cornwall. To examine abortion legalization, STIs, click and Shraven, employs similar strategy estimated after pre-raw action. The abortion legislation argument linked to two prediction wars. Observe low incidence 15, 19-year-olds doing anti-DC previous relative rural counterparts can be infection being on because cohorts could not fully come to age 1980. This evidence supports prediction of pure click and Shraven. Before this over click and Shraven because they only examine the immediate effect, did not contain the effect in the born in the world. It's also previous analysis explicit comparison long term, but if it's always short term because they affect more people in the future compared to now. Three, no drink or disease. They're probably click strategy means historical analysis review, so meaning that link shit is true that it should have already massive disease that the US hadn't happened. Four, turn adults are estimated because they're actually less likely to engage in risky behavior. War go. The cliche of that young people think they are vulnerable is untrue. They body scientific evidence that adults estimate something accurately. They overestimate the risk of HIV and STD. Optimize adults display same the adults are empirically denied of the impact level because that will lead to extinction. There's disease right now, no reason to cover the impact.
Alright, 338 left. I'm gonna send you one.
Are you reading anything?
Yeah, I just sent it. Okay, order is, so, overview, and then NC framework, or actually, yeah, so overview, the abortions disad, the STDs disad, and then, the first disad, then case.
So, first disad, second disad, first disad.
Case.
So, not the framework.
Well, yeah, the framework's gonna be on the first disad flow.
Okay, one second, let me just get the email isn't sending. I don't know what
Alright.
it's saying.
Okay, now is everyone ready?
First, he has conceded that DA turns case meets that acts as all the balance of life arguments about structural violence because economic decline causes resource conflicts and causes resource scarcity since wealth inequities only be exacerbated. Second, he has conceded that structural violence is precluded by existential risk because existential risk hurts everybody and causes loss of balance of life since food shortages as well as nuclear war would only hurt the most marginalized and only reinforces conflicts. Now on the second dissent, not going for all, concede that there's no brink to the disease impact and that it's not unique since it disproves and it's also not unique since it proves that since the disease has already happened now, but there is no impact. Also, I'll concede that the increases abortion education, but that means that this is also not unique because there is no rejection in STD in the world of the afro and the neg. This is not an advantage for him. Either way, I'll prove that my second dissent impact outweighs. Now, the second dissent on the framework of evidence, he has conceded the Sunstein and Bermuda argument that there's no commission being for states no proof of action still entail more responsibility as states are in the business of prohibition permission, which means that they're still responsible for the emissions of their actions. This proves that states are responsible for states of affairs and the consequences of their action, regardless of the intent of the action, which means that I just need to prove that extinction is a worse consequence than structural violence. This is regardless of his role of the ballot arguments. His war for his extension role of the ballot just means that I just need to win that extinction is a worse consequence than structural violence. Now he has conceded two reasons why extinction comes first. One is that there's always value to life in a world where people are alive, but death is worse because people who are oppressed still find certain joys in life, but death ends all the possibility of that. Extend the B point of reversibility means that value to life can only be found in the world later, but death is but extinction is irreversible, which means that you should prefer impact. Now extend the two argument that extinction also links to their role of the ballot because it causes structural violence, since nuclear wars cause food shortages as well as massive loss of lives. Means the extinction scenario still links to his role of ballot. Don't let him go for framework. He has conceded two reasons why extinction precludes now in the dissent itself. The DA outweighs. A is faster internal link. Our evidence indicates that the Indonesia is decreasing in economic decline now. That's our Saline 15 evidence. And extend our B B point is population density. In East Asia and Southeast Asia there is high population density. We don't need to win extinction scenario to access a larger magnitude. It causes more deaths because there are more people concentrated in urban areas. C point is we have isolated multiple scenarios. We have isolated nuclear terrorism, nuclear proliferation, food shortages, nuclear war, as well as climate change. We should for our scenario around because they have only read a single scenario on the affirmative. And DA turns case second class means the poorest and marginalized can't access key resources. We don't need to win an extinction risk. Now the dissent itself extends to Saline 15 evidence that the Joko is able to pass economic policies now, but he needs a strong coalition because the PDIP has won a fraction of the parliamentary seats. Now the L213 evidence conceded the link evidence that abortion is controversial within the Congress within Indonesia because of political and moral and religious concerns. This also means that link controls the direction of uniqueness. If you're unsure of which way uniqueness goes, then you should default negative because you see that abortion is massively controversial because it fractures the coalition. Now extend the low content evidence that the economic decline destroys U.S. relations because it destroys a way for us to create a focal point of economic cooperation. That's our low content evidence. Now extend that it's key to counterterrorism because U.S. relations provide the Indonesian government with ability to cooperate and fight terrorism. They provide police units training as well as various types of equipment. Now extend the Bund 14 evidence that extinction through nuclear war, through nuclear terrorism is the highest possible risk. Now answering his arguments, his BISWAS 14 evidence says that PDIP can't pass, but he just says that 44% of Congress is a PDIP, which will all concede, but that is exactly what our internal link is, that they need to build a coalition because they cooperate with other parties such as the PAN as well as other parties in order to build a coalition. Second is that second is that he needs to second is that they have conceded our link argument, which means that this proves that this is just proving our internal link argument. Now extend our CISWO evidence. He says that he has changed his strategy. One, you should read this evidence. This is exactly what our Lohim 10 evidence says, that this is the exact same economic strategy, that he'll invest fuel subsidies back into infrastructure to increase long-term education. But second is that he'll still be able to push reforms, in the strategy is the same as we read in the 1C Bland 15. Indonesian President Joko Widodo vowed to accelerate reforms after abolishing 18 billion fuel subsidies, neutralize political opposition. What we have achieved so far shows we are really serious. Victor Widodo traced an absolute natural growth curve with his finger and said it will be like that. Mr. Widodo was elected last year with a vow to raise growth from a 5-year low, reduce poverty, and redirect fuel subsidies spending longer, and neglecting infrastructure, education, and health policy. Widodo has been winning over investor increase to $4 billion in aid. Global bond issue with Indonesia relying foreign funding. Investors believe that further reforms are vital for protect the influence, but the 50-year yield has moved to styleless critics by appealing to key opposite politics in the Indonesian public. I'm used to running minor opposition. Third. Now on his no impact arguments. Extend our Board 14 evidence. You should always prefer hard evidence on this question because experts better understand the ability of radiological damage to hurt the infrastructure. Now extend the multiple warrants in Bund 14. First is that terrorists are able to buy weapons from other organizations. Second is that WMD acquisition is feasible. This is the best data and it kills the economy. Road fraud. 14. Nuclear terrorism, one of the most serious smuggling theft over nuclear materials of alarmingly frequent. More than 100 incidents reported each year. Thousands of countries possess materials that can be used in a 3D bomb over 25 uranium enough to build 20,000 weapons. You could build a bombs worth into launch rocket groups around the world of expansion. 10 to expire weapons. There's little doubt they can be used if I think global economy will be severely disrupted. Their no-break argument is just a very weak piece of defense. Even if there has not been a nuclear attack in the past, this does not prove that this only proves that our internal link, that the increasing amount of nuclear material in the international economy proves that terrorists can gain it in the future. That's also our Bund evidence. And lastly, yes, nuclear terror, Indonesian infrastructure problems that counterterrorism is key, and that it's possible for them to gain nuclear terrorism, nukes, NTI 15. Concerns were made of the ability of the Indonesian government to fully ensure the security of its nuclear materials, particularly from terrorist group. Indonesia currently working with the IEA to solve 3 more RPMs in August 2015 integrated regulatory review service and conduct 12-day review of Indonesia's regulatory infrastructure, nuclear threats, and security. Now we skip the next card, and on the argument on no retaliation. One is yes, retaliation. Miscalculation means that superpowers will always retaliate against small threats that they are unable to predict because of short flight times. Second is that nuclear terrorism causes extinction independent of retaliation. 2 and 7. Nuclear explosives can produce urban facilities exceeding 1 million economic consequences. Even localized nuclear traffic have severe international economic consequences. Cut the car at economic consequences. Now, okay, so he extends the argument about epistemological bias. One is that util is obviously not epistemology bias. It includes all maximization of all people. Second is that he has conceded argument about why extinction also links to balance of life, which means it answers structural violence argument. Third is that util is a preferable argument because it also perceive our understanding of epistemology. That's Boston.
Okay. 1 second. We'll start the timer. 2:05.
Yep.
Start. So what was that Bland 15 evidence?
So it says that I said he has maintained his strategy and he is able to push for reforms now.
Wait, so he's maintained the strategy that the AF talks about, and now he can push for reforms?
It says the 1C said he has an economic strategy.
Yeah.
The Bland 15 evidence says he is still using that strategy and is able to accelerate his reforms because he has political coalitions. So it answers your argument why PDIP won't pass and also why he's changed his strategy.
Okay. Okay, well, it's gonna be overview to the round, starting on, you can flow this on the util framework, and then from there, it will be quick extension of turns on the second disad, then the first disad. So, NC framework, STDs, the first, the politics disad, with a lot of weighing on the impacts and link level.
Try again. STDs, politics?
Yeah.
Okay.
Start on the NC framework to flow.
Okay.
Sure, all concede death is the biggest impact in the raw, but I still went off of that because you can see turns on the abortion decide. So if I win with the abortion decide on the after, would outweigh the extinction impacts on the first decide, when you still vote for me, you can see it's Bostrom, the two warrants why hurting my framework is true means there's no moral certainty, no reason to maximize the central risk when the impacts of weighing up probability matters now because probability impacts come into play because you don't extend Bostrom reasons why Bostrom matters. So impacts of existential risk do come first where they matter, but death bat is still an argument. The whole reason his impact for why nuclear war is a bad argument is contingent upon why death is bad, meaning that he's going to win. If he wants to win the round, he has to win. Then he solves for more deaths, but that's not going to happen. I'll go to the abortion dissent first. Extending Cornwall evidence says the abortion declaration reduces STDs in the long run, meaning that we reduce STDs. Negating means that you increase the risk of STD. That means that leads to more deaths overall because the STD still causes outweighs of multiple warrants. One, tolerability because disease still kills people, meaning that it will lead to more deaths than the dissent that causes extinction. Second of all, magnitude because disease affects everybody rather than just a specific number of people that are affected by nuclear war, which is the reason why that would still outweigh magnitude. Third of all is time frame because the disease would still affect everybody because the aftermath lowers the STD rate, which is the reason why this type flows out. That's a term that he concedes, and also the time frame argument means that everybody will get affected by disease now. That's the reason why you heard those arguments. Go to the PDIP dissent. He says okay, so he says that he saw because the link, I can see the link. That's not a reason, but that's the reason you look at uniqueness. So that's not true. You misunderstand the first piece. The business what Evan talks about. Only 40% of people in the parliamentary have support the coalition. Meaning that it's not going to get past. 40% is not greater than 50%. That means it's not going to get past because the majority. You have to have a majority, which is the reason that it's not going to get past. Non-unique the evidence. Second of all, he says the line evidence says the strategy works. Meaning that if the strategy works, then there will be no economic collapse. He turns himself here because if the current strategy works, then there's no economic collapse or instability. There will be no impact triggered. Second of all, he says that now we can push for more reforms. That turns to political capital evidence because Joe Koki says that if the current legalization says that he can push for more reforms, and that turns political capital because then he has political capital past PDIP as well as the current one, which turns your link argument because now he has enough argument. So if you do the AF now, then that will be able to solve for the idea that he has enough political capital to both PDIP and pass the abortion legislation. Even then, let's go to the impact. On the impact, you can see the argument that the impact should have already occurred if terrorism is high right now, that if we should have a nuclear war or some sort of miscalculation before. For example, North Korea is highly unstable. They should have launched a nuke, but that hasn't happened yet. So that's terminal defense of the impact. Even then, your evidence is why is specific to why they can acquire a WMD, but not a reason that would cause extinction. I go to the extinction argument at the bottom of the case. First, you said miscalculation, but that's not true. That should have already happened. Miscalculation, extremely low probability. You want a probability over any other argument in the round because the probability matters whether the impact's going to happen or not. Because you should vote if death is the greatest impact. You should vote on what causes more death or not whether if it's possible for death to come first. That doesn't matter because it's the probability of death. He says that a single nuclear bomb can cause extinction, but we launched atomic bombs before, meaning that it's actually nuclear strikes. That should have caused extinction, but it hasn't, meaning that it's empirically denied. So the impact is very contested, and the uniqueness and link level is very contested on this side. You should have voted on it. You should vote on the returns on the abortion this side from I stop more STDs.
Catherine.
Can I see this NIT?
Yeah. The one I read in the tuner?
Yeah.
Okay.
Sorry.
What's the other card you read on?
What else do you want to see?
The other card?
Key
My
weapons.
weapons. Drop onto one.
Yeah, sorry.
Well, I also read this, and then I read this.
Not under where the one that's right above NIT.
Above or below?
Above.
Oh.
Like you read before.
Then why didn't they announce?
No, like Shah was deciding last, so he walked. Everybody else walked out first.
Is he gonna go bring it back?
Yeah, that's what he said.
Okay.
Nisarg, you weren't worth an RFD. They just left.
Wait, so on some of your entries, do you have the thing on Canada?
The tilde?
Would that fuck up your
I think
bids?
so.
Like half your bids are under tilde Canada and half your bids are under.
I don't know.
You swore.
He can cut it out. He can edit his videos. Wouldn't that be the shittiest reason to not go to TOC? You got one bid underneath Kenyatta and one bid underneath Canada.
Yeah. Alright, guys. Congratulations for making it to the Octa final debates. It is a 3-0 decision for the negative.
Okay, I'll start. You really should have straight turned the disad and not read a bunch of impact defense to disease impacts if you wanted to go for this strategy. And I was actually really surprised in the 1AR that you did that. You really foreclose your options on this, especially because you have two cards here, and it sounds like some decent link turns. So I thought that should have been the view in the 1AR. That is bad because it means that he has conceded your impact defense, which is always going to be better impact defense than yours on the other disad because that is contested. So on a pure strength of link level, I think the other disad is going to outweigh. He also reads a bunch of cards in the 1NR or in the 2NR that you don't really get to that are specific to terrorism in Indonesia. It makes a bunch of overview weighing arguments like it's a faster internal to extinction, population density, multiple scenarios for extinction, all these types of things that are justifications for his impacts. And you don't actually have an impact defense card that's red, which would be a good way to answer a nuke terror scenario. In the 2AR, you go for a turn, you go for this sort of winner's win argument, but I think this is new, it wasn't in the 1AR, and I also think it's not a legitimate response to this push reforms argument he reads in the 2NR, because it doesn't really say that he'll gain capital by pushing. It just says that he can appeal to the opposition and make coalitions, kind of. So I don't think that it actually means the AF will lead to political capital, and you don't have a warrant why the AF would give more political capital. So I don't think you actually get a link turn in this debate. And I think the uniqueness debate is also now great in your favor because of this reform uniqueness evidence. So I think he's read a bunch of evidence. Your only argument is that there's 40%, and then he says, okay, fine, I agree there isn't a big coalition now, but he's pushing it so that number will grow. So there is uniqueness for the disad. And yeah, that's it.
Yeah, I agree largely with Bob. I think that you're pretty far behind on this bland evidence that he's reading, which is that he basically grants the concession of, yeah, sure, there's like 40 people who support it back. And your evidence is also from 2014. So combination with the original uniqueness evidence on the disad, as well as this bland evidence, seem to indicate that the story of the disad is not that everyone supports it now, but rather that the president has enough political capital to push it through, build the coalition he needs. I also think that conceptually, I agree with Bob that you're absolutely, reading this impact defense is a bad idea. But then even past that, the difficulty I have is that the weighing arguments you're making in the 2AR as to why the disad comes before politics are borderline incoherent. They're like, we need to focus on probability, and I outweigh because disease will affect everyone, whereas like extinction won't, which is like, it's kind of like I just don't know what that means. And so you keep switching back on the weighing debate between magnitude and probability, but even before I get to that weighing the two disads, I think you're behind on both impact D on disease and STDs, as well as the link and uniqueness debate on politics.
Yeah, basically, obviously you're not showing the DA. You're generating a unique impact off the DA, which is that you reduce STDs, but there's no impacting out of exactly how many people are affected and what the actual effect is. Do people actually die from the STDs? And then you have to weigh that against the disad. I think you're losing the link level. You have to watch out. His reclarification from the cross-ex before the 2AR was very clear, and it's just not, I don't think it was the same as it was in the speech. So like when he said that, I was like, oh my god, I totally understand the link level now. So you gotta be careful about stuff like that. And he tells me I should prefer carded evidence over like the empirics analysis, and that's sufficient for me to grant him access to his impacts. It's like very minimal empirically denied defense on the probability level. And yeah, so I picked this out versus small.
How did you evaluate the economic? I know the other two judges aren't here, but I have a question for all three of you. But How did you evaluate the economic instability uniqueness argument, like the argument that if there are reforms right now, or like the second piece of evidence I read in the 1AR, if there are reforms right now, there's no like economic instability because it's growing, then the impacts wouldn't occur.
Well, I think I'm pretty sure that's only one of the scenarios.
Okay.
Because like one of the parts I wrote was about being able to control Indonesia's actual sites for launching, and I don't think that's dependent on economic stability.
Okay. Cool. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, Bob is right. Bob is right though. You should have gone for case instead and try to win case, and then do impact defense on the DA, and that might have been a better strategy.
Okay. So like you still would have evaluated arguments why the oppression-based arguments would outweigh death in the 2AR?
I don't think you're winning that debate.
Okay.
But I mean like it's a question of probability versus magnitude, I guess.
Okay.